This presentation addresses Legislation 1270 and Regulation 106A, Delaware governance related to educator evaluations. The goal of this presentation is to highlight the dynamic and value-laden process the DOE has taken to revise these policies related to the Delaware teacher evaluation system. Fowler defines public policy. Public policy is the dynamic and value-laden process through which a political system handles a public problem. It includes a government's expressed intentions and official enactments, as well as its consistent patterns of activity and inactivity. August 4th, 2021, House Bill 133 was signed into law. The act changes the current evaluation system for all teachers from the former Delaware Performance Appraisal System, DPAS-2, to a new Delaware Teacher Growth and Support System, DTGSS. The act allowed the DOE to begin a phased-in approach to implementation of the new teacher evaluation system. Pictured here is Governor Carney, House Representative Kim Williams, Senate Representative Nicole Poore, DSEA Director of Instructional Advocacy Deb Stevens, DDOE Associate Secretary at the time John Neubauer, DDOE Director at the time Melissa Oates, and DDOE Ed Associate, me, Angela Sicorso. The policy of focus. Delaware governance related to teacher evaluation is Delaware Code 1270 and Delaware Regulation 106A. 1270. The Department, with the consent of the State Board of Education, shall enact rules and regulations to administer the Delaware Performance Appraisal System. 106A. Pursuant to 1270, Regulation 106A requires all school districts and charter schools to evaluate teachers using the DPAS-2 guide revised for teachers. The policy issue revolves around the need to amend legislation requiring districts and charters to administer the DPAS-2 evaluation system for teachers. The amendments will require districts and charters to administer the new teacher evaluation system, the Delaware Teacher Growth and Support System. What problem is the revised policy designed to solve? Revising the policy will solve the problem that teachers are not receiving specific actionable feedback to meet the needs of the students and improve their own practice. Revising the policy will solve the problem that DPAS-2 is not aligned to the higher expectations required for teachers and students. Revising the policy will solve the problem voiced by legislators that the format of the DPAS-2 teacher evaluation process does not provide the mechanism or guidance to meet teachers' needs. What impact will the policy amendments have on the Delaware Public School districts and charters? Policy amendments will lead to greater student learning. With a shift to a learning-focused model of evaluation, emphasis is now placed on how teaching affects what the students know and are able to do in relation to curricular goals and standards. Policy amendments will lead to more teacher reflection on the impact his or her instructional decisions for student learning had, and then adjusting instruction based on that impact. With a shift to a learning-focused model of evaluation, the emphasis is placed on how or what the teacher might change and why, to which instructional choices are helping or hindering student learning, and what next steps will need to be taken to improve learning. Policy amendment will support school environments that strengthen the adult professional culture. The role of the evaluator will be to develop and strengthen a school culture of professionalism and learning. The evaluator's focus is one of collaboration with the teacher to assess the impact of programs and practices on the learners and identify what to change, how to make the changes, what data to collect, and how to monitor progress. Policy amendment will require leaders to serve in the role as instructional leaders. One function of instructional leaders is engaging in instructionally focused interactions with teachers on an ongoing basis, providing specific, actionable feedback. Why is it important to understand this policy? This policy changes how the 10,000 teachers across the state of Delaware are evaluated, and it affects 900 districts and school leaders who are completing the evaluations. It also affects the Delaware Institutes of Higher Education, who are working with pre-service teachers. Both teachers and leaders will need to understand the new language outlined in the framework, as well as the new process of how to implement the DTGSS. DTGSS provides a framework for thinking about teaching and learning, a common language to strengthen teaching and learning, and a process for intentionally strengthening teaching and learning. In order to understand the status of the policy, it's important to understand the process that led to the need to make the changes to Code 1270 and Regulation 106A. In 2018-2019, the steering committee, made up of teachers, building leaders, school leaders, district office leaders, personnel directors, higher education representatives, charter school representatives, and representatives from the Department of Education, met to begin the redesign of the evaluation system. In 2019-2020, the steering committee tested the framework in over 10,000 classrooms across all grade levels. The steering committee was able to create a representative sample of data to support the use of the framework across classrooms. In 2020-2021, the steering committee finalized the process and prepared for pilot implementation. Some of these preparations included recruiting pilot LEAs, presenting on the framework and process, creating the resources and the DTGSS guidebook, to name a few. Also, in the summer of 2021, House Bill 133 was signed, allowing the DOE to begin the pilot with 9 LEAs. In 2021-2022, DTGSS pilot implementation began with Cohort 1. Activities involved both leader and teacher training, school visits, monthly calibration sessions, continued edits of the guidebook, resource creation such as sample CEI statements, sample professional growth goals, sample DSC forms, administering surveys and analyzing results were a few other activities. Edits also began to 1270. In 2022-2023, DTGSS pilot implementation begins with Cohort 2, 14 LEAs. Monitoring of Cohort 2 will begin with the same activities of Cohort 1. In addition, the DOE will be able to evaluate the impact of DTGSS on Cohort 1. Also, finalizing edits to 1270 and Regulation 106A will take place so that in 2023-2024, DTGSS will be fully implemented statewide. Now let's take a look at the timeline for the final approval of the policy. In August of 2022, DOE will submit a policy memo to the governor for changes to 1270. The purpose of the memo is to make the governor aware that approval of 1270 is a top priority this year. Between September and December of 2022, I will lead the work on the line edits to 1270 and engage stakeholder feedback on the edits and revise if needed. Between January and March, the DOE policy analyst will review the line edits for approval, and the policy analyst will send the policy out for public review. Between April and June, the DOE submits amended 1270 to the legislators and to the Governor Carney to sign. Also, Dr. Holodick will request approval from the State Board of Education to amend 106A. In 2023-2024, the state will be ready for full implementation of DTGSS. Policy actors. The first group of policy actors who play a critical role because they vote on approval to the revision of Code 1270 are Governor Carney, who signs the bills into law, Kim Williams, the Education Committee member of the Delaware House, and Laura Sturgeon, the Education Committee member of the Delaware Senate, play a major role because they vote on the final changes to the policy. They worked diligently on House Bill 133 and collaborated with DSEA, DASA, and DOE so that the governor was sure to sign it into law. They also mobilized support from other legislators like Senator Nicole Poore. As the representatives on the DPAS Advisory Committee, they are kept informed on the progress of pilot implementation and collaborate on edits to 1270. The next group of policy actors play visible, critical roles because they influence legislators and the governor for any changes to legislation or regulatory code. Secretary of Education, Dr. Mark Holodick. DSEA Director of Instructional Advocacy, Deb Stevens. Educator Excellence DOE Workgroup members, Associate Secretary John Neubauer, Director Melissa Oates, and Educator Associate me, Angela Sicorso. School Superintendent, Dr. Joseph Jones, and Director of the Delaware Association of School Personnel, Jason Cameron, just to name a few. Both Joe and Jason were part of DTGSS pilot implementation, so their feedback was critical to decision-making on both the framework language and the process. The next group of policy actors play a less visible but still critical role in policy formation. This group of actors are the building principals. Because they are the people actually doing the work of DTGSS every day with students and teachers, their feedback to superintendents is valued. Superintendents listen and share what is happening at the building level with DOE, Dr. Holodick, local representatives, and others. Fowler cites Carter and Cunningham, who noted, as superintendents become dissatisfied with the barrage of shifting state and federal mandates that have drained their resources, they find themselves actively involved in trying to influence and shape those mandates. The final group of policy actors are the steering committee. They play an invisible and less critical role in policy formation than the previously mentioned policy actors. They provide feedback and input to support decision-making, but they do not make the final decisions. How do others learn about the policy? One way is through the panel discussions. Monthly panel discussions are held by pilot leaders who share first-hand experiences with implementation of DTGSS, lessons learned, what is working and what is not working. Panel discussions are open for all stakeholders to attend. Another way to learn about the system is through monthly information sessions. During these sessions, steering committee members share an overview of the system and process, share the history of the design, and identify how DTGSS is different from DPAS 2. DPAS Advisory Committee meetings is another way to disseminate information. The committee is made up of representatives from teachers, leaders, the State Board of Education, legislators, DOE, superintendents, and members of the Office of the Governor. Meeting quarterly, members are presented with data reports and progress updates. Collaboration on decision-making takes place at these meetings. Policy information is also shared through the Access newsletter. Monthly newsletters, written and published by me, highlight leaders who are implementing DTGSS. I write about the success they have had and the lessons learned. The newsletter also serves as a professional learning opportunity, for I will share resources or information pertinent to DTGSS. What does the data show about the impact of DTGSS? There is a high level of buy-in among administrators with regards to the new teacher evaluation system. The story for teachers is more mixed. While the level of buy-in among teachers for the new system is about 1.5 or twice the level for the old teacher evaluation system, there is still a significant gap between administrator and teacher buy-in. Also, it seems that while teachers expect DTGSS to positively impact their instructional practice, they do not see the new system positively impacting professional development. Let's take a look at the administrator data through the surveys, interviews, and discussions. 88% of administrators reported that DTGSS captures the most important aspects of a teacher's work. 92% reported DTGSS is very or mostly fair and equitable for teachers. 60% reported that DTGSS greatly or very much improves teachers' instructional practice. 54% reported DTGSS greatly or very much improved professional development. 60% reported that DTGSS greatly or very much drives student achievement gains. And 71% gave DTGSS a grade of A or B. Now let's look at the teacher data gathered through surveys, interviews, and discussions. 63% of teachers reported DTGSS captures the most important aspects of a teacher's work. 34% reported that DTGSS is very or mostly fair and equitable for teachers. 58% reported that DTGSS greatly or very much improves teachers' instructional practice. 34% reported that DTGSS greatly or very much improved professional development. and 36 reported that DTGSS greatly or very much drives student achievement gains. Changes to Delaware Code 1270 and Regulation 106A has been an ongoing process since 2018. As a member of the steering committee in 2018 and now an education associate responsible for teacher evaluations, I have had firsthand experience with policy development in the iterative nature of codifying language that supports teacher growth and development and student learning. All stakeholders, from teachers to leaders to legislators, pursued policy related to educator evaluations with a clear understanding of the issues, the data, the interests, and the options. As a result, the policy process will be highly effective in resolving problems of poor feedback and low expectations. Delaware will be the state leading the way in policy that provides the guidance and mechanisms to meet both teacher and student needs and achieve the outcomes desired. Increase teacher effectiveness for greater student learning success.